Shalom Aleichem, sweetest friends. This year should be a special schus for Moshe ben Peshadina. We're continuing the previous year where we spoke about being tolet tzitzis. According to the Rambam, Shitas HaRambam, is that you have to be tolet, that tzlias tzitzis does not require Lishmah. When you're tolet tzitzis, when you tie the tzitzis, you don't have to do it l'shem mitzvahs tzitzis. According to Rashi and the Rosh in Maseches Sukkah and Daf Tes, it requires Lishmah. You have to do it Lishmah. According to Tosfos, as we learn, they hold that it has to be Lishmah, but stam Lishmah in the absence of any kavanah. Otherwise, for other things, it's considered Lishmah. How does the Shulchan Aruch paskin? The Shulchan Aruch paskins that lechatchila you should do like Rashi and the Rosh and make sure that it's Lishmah. But if you don't have any such tzitzis, it's Shabbos, whatever, this is all you have, you can't go anywhere else. So, you can wear these tzitzis, just don't make a bracha. Wear tzitzis that were made not Lishmah, just don't make a bracha. What's interesting is that the Shulchan Aruch doesn't even mention the Rambam, the Tosfos Shita, the middle Shita. That's Stama Lishma. That if it wasn't made Lishma, but you can assume Stama Lishma. To be Somech on that b'di'evet. But L'char Shulchan Aruch means you can even be Somech on the Rambam. That you don't need Lishma at all. You don't have to come on to Stama Lishma. You don't even need Lishma at all. But L'chatchila, you should follow Rashi and the Rosh. Make sure it was actively done Lishma. And no, not even Stama Lishma. Don't assume Stama Lishma. So the Rabbi Kiva Eger, the Shoel asked Rabbi Kiva Eger, I don't understand. How does Shulchan Aruch know that Rashi and the Rosh don't paskin like Tosfos? Maybe Rashi and the Rosh also hold Stama Lishma. Why does Shulchan Aruch understand that no, it has to mamish be Lishma? Maybe you don't have to have exclusive kavanah Lishma. All you can see in Rashi and the Rosh is that they hold that it has to be Lishma, but maybe Stama Lishma. So Rabbi Kiva Eger answers that where does the Rambam get his shita from? And Tosfos, because they had a kasha in the Gemara. The Gemara says that Goyim are puzzled to make tzitzis, and they have Xeris HaKasav. The Rambam was bothered, according to the case of Mishnah, as Rabbi Kiva Eger understands him. What did Xeris HaKasav for? It has to be Lishma. Goyim can't do Lishma. Git Mechav Gimel. He's doing it for himself. He's not doing it for L'shem Get, L'shem Tzitzis. So there's Tzoma Get. So why don't we say here that he's puzzled because he's not doing it Lishma? Goyim don't do Lishma. Teretz. Obviously, the Rambam says you don't need Lishma. Right? So Rambam says you see from here, if you need Xeris HaKasav from special pasuk, you don't need Lishma. Otherwise, we pass the Mas Lishma. Tos had the same kasha, and they said, you know, you need Xeris HaKasav that the Goyim are puzzled because Stama is Lishma. So, like Tos says in Gittin, that a Daite Denavshi means Stama. You're not doing it with any kavana, and if Stama is Lishma, then it's Beseder. So the Tos holds that since you need a pasuk to pass a Goy, to make tzitzis, it must be that stama is lishma. And therefore, if not for the pasuk, going would be kasha to make tzitzis. Because stama is lishma. The Rambam asked the same kasha. It's told they both bothered. How do you know that goyim? Why does the Gemara say that goyim can't make tzitzis because of Xeris HaKasav? What about lishma? Rambam says you don't need lishma. Must be you don't need lishma. So the question is, that how do we know that the Rosh argues that stama is not lishma? So Rabbi Kiva Eger says that this whole proof, the Rambam and Tosfos, they hachrech to get to their conclusion, is going to be totally in a machlokas between the Rambam and the Rosh, like abedin ibud gvil v'klaf. When they prepare the parchment for a sefer Torah and tefillin that require lishma, does it help if it's a goy in Yisrael Omer al Gab, if there's a Jew standing there telling him to do it Lishma? According to the Rambam, Perek Mechutz Fin Halach Yud Aleph, Loi Mahani, doesn't help. Yisrael Omer al Gab doesn't help. Makoiroi from the Gemara in Gittin, that it says that a goy can't write a get Lishma, and even Yisrael Omer al Gab, and he tells him to write it Lishma. It's no good. So to Ibud HaKlaf doesn't help if the Yisrael Omer al Gabav. So according to this shita, that goy can't do it even if Yisrael Omer al Gabav, so the Rambam and Tosfos were bothered. So why not tzitzis? So, and that's what compelled the Rambam to come to his conclusion that for tzitzis you don't need lishma. Tosfos came to their conclusion that you do need lishma, but stam lishma koi. But the Rosh is a different sigan. The Rosh in the Sefer Torah Siman Gimel holds like Rabbeinu Baruch brought in the tour in Yoredeya in Archaim and Siman Lamed Beis that be Yisrael Omer al Gabav. It's good if a guy does it. As long as he tells the guy be ma'abed this or, prepare this parchment, l'shem sefer Torah b'tefillin. And the Rosh says that even though we learn in the Gemara in Gittin that it's no good, that goy date denav shevet afili yisrael mit agav v'loy mahani. So what's the chiluk? The teretz is that Yisrael Omer Al-Gabav, says the Rosh, only works for Tchilas Maisav. Only works at the very beginning, but not for the Hemshich. So now we understand. When there's Ibud, the Ibud is just for a moment. They just put the klaf in the liquid that prepares the klaf, and that's for a second. That a goy can have kavanah for. But to write a get, a goy can't have kavanah because that's memushach. So that's a longer process. So we don't assume that the goy is going to have kavanah for the whole ksivas haget. Only the zman kotzer. So that's the chiluk between ibud oiris and ksivas haget. Omer al Gabav doesn't work for ksivas haget, but it does work for ibud oiris. And from that, the Shulchan Aruch learned, the Rosh must also hold that Yisrael Omer Agavim, tell him to do Lishmah, isn't going to work for Tviyas Tzitzis. Isn't going to work, that Yisrael Omer Agavim is going to work for Tviyas Tzitzis if you do it for a second, if you do it very quickly. That's the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Yud Aleph Siv Beis, that for spinning the tzitzis, if it's done, as the Mishnah Berurah and Bir Allah explain, if it's done in a second, so it's beseder, because for that, the guy can have kavanah, as long as it doesn't take too long. For that, he'll have the kavanah. And if that's the case, then according to the Rosh, we don't have this question of why does the Gemara need to come on to the pasuk to pass the goy for tying up the tzitzis? Why don't we just say you can't have kavanah lishma? Because how long does it take to tie the tzitzis? Mikra adin midoraisa, all you need is chulya achas and kesher elya. It's 2 seconds. So therefore, since it's so short, so we assume the goy can't have kavanah lishma. Now, if the Rosh doesn't have the kasha, then the Rosh doesn't have to come on to the teretz. The Rosh isn't bothered why we don't pass the goy lishma. So therefore, he doesn't come to the conclusion that you don't need lishma. Only the Rambam was bothered because the Rambam says even something that's momentary, that takes very just a moment. Even there, if you need lishma, you don't assume that a goy is kavanah lishma. But and therefore, he asks, so if the guy's not having kavanah lishma when he makes the tzitzis, then why need a pasuk to pass on? It must be you don't need lishma. The Rosh wasn't bothered by that because the Rosh said a guy can't have kavanah for tzitzis. So there's no havamina to pass on him als lishma. Because you can do it lishma, so you can't come to the conclusion you don't require lishma. You do require lishma. A guy can do lishma. And the pasuk tells you, "Go, can't do lishma." But where since he didn't have the kasha of the Rambam, that anyway the guy is pasal as lishma, he doesn't have to come to the chorech of the Rambam that you don't need lishma. He holds the guy can do lishma. And tzitzis does need lishma. So since the Rosh didn't have the kasha of the Rambam and Tosfos, he doesn't reach either of their conclusions. He doesn't reach the conclusion of the Rambam, you don't need lishma at all. And he also doesn't reach the conclusion of the Tosfos that stam is lishma. I mean, that was Tosfos' conclusion. So he said, we need a pasuk to pass the goy. Anyway, he's not doing lishma. And Tosfos answers stam lishma. But the Rosh didn't have that kasha in the first place. Why need a pasuk to pass him anyway? He's not doing it lishma because the Rosh holds you can do it lishma. So if you don't have the kasha, which is machriach the teretz, then you obviously don't get to the teretz, right? You didn't have this achrech. Nothing was compelling the Rosh to come to Tosfos' conclusion that stam lishma. And the Meili holds stam is not lishma, and that's why the Shulchan Aruch doesn't quote that in the name of the Rosh, that stama is Lishmah. And he holds that no, you need a positive Lishmah. Ad kan divi Rabbi Kiva Eger. And we should add, and maybe this is included in the words of Rabbi Kiva Eger, who writes Gur Gur Bekitzu. You can look in the Tshuva there. And it was expanded upon by the Baal Hagos and Rabbi Kiva Eger, the Achiza Be'ekev, Rav Shurkin Shlita from Lakewood. That's Mefurish, the Hedia, that the Rosh doesn't hold to the Svar of Tosfos. Tosfos holds that we say Stam Lishma in areas outside of Kachim. And the Rosh, it's Mefurish that we don't. Remember, the Gemara Stam Lishma is only by Kachim. It's the Chiddush of Tosfos to expand it to Tzitzis. How do you know? The Rosh doesn't hold this way. Because the Gemara of Avodah Zarah says in Chav Zayin that according to Rabbi Yehuda, Mila has to be Lishma. You have to do L'Shem Bris Mila. And you also see that according to Rabbi Yehuda, Mila has to be Lishma, and a Goy can do it because Yisrael Omer Al Gabav. And Tosan Avodah Zarah asks a kasha. Rabbi Akiva, if Rabbi Yehuda holds that Mila has to be Lishma, then how on earth can a Goy do it? Why is that any different than a get that a Goy can't write because it doesn't do Lishma? Adaite Denav She'avit. And for Tosfos, Stama Lishma Koi. This Tinok is on his 8th day. What else is an 8th day? When you hear 8th day baby, what are you thinking, right? Thinking bris. Stama Lishma. So therefore, this guy, when he mouths this kid, is not going to have any kavana, but it's Stama Lishma. Mashen can a get. You can't say that the get is being written Stama Lishma. Because Stam Isha, even in the year 2018, which is a few thousand years ago, even in the year 57, 78, there's a lot of divorce, unfortunately. But Stam Isha is not Legerishin Omed. The Stam Isha is B'cheskes Eishes Ish. She should remain married. B'simcha b'tuv levav be'ava achva sholem v'reis. With her husband. So she's not Legerishin Omedis Memela. The guy can't write this get. So that's the Mahalach Tosfos. But the Rosh, no. The Rosh, in Menachs and Sefer Torah, Siman Gimel, what gefragt is Zil Bekasha vi Tosfos. He asked the same question. Tosfos asks, Maishan Lagabe Mila, that according to Rabbi Yehuda, a guy can do it, even though you need Lishma and a get no. But Hu Magil Maskana Shona. Omer, he comes to a different, I speak Hebrew now, he comes to different conclusions. I never realized how hard a language English is until I hear Israelis speaking English and seeing how many mistakes they make. It's not their fault, meaning there are Israelis who know English perfectly, but a lot of Israelis, they went, going. Why not wenting? Anyway, there's a lot of things in English that we only know because we know English. So I speak now like a new, I just got green card. Yes. So Rosh answer that, and det, why det? Because there's no the in Hebrew. I was born on Har Sinai, on Mount Sinai. I don't know what floor, but not at the top of Mount Sinai, somewhere in the middle of Mount Sinai. But there in Mount Sinai, I got the. So this is really off the topic. So the Rosh doesn't answer like Tosfos. The Rosh says that Yisrael Omer Agabav only helps l'tchilas ma'asav shel akum. And therefore, if it's Nase's Karega, it's okay. Mashenkin Ksivas Haget is not Nase's Karega. That takes a while. Right, like we saw by the Ibud Oros, if it's a second, then Yisrael Omer Agabav is Beseder. But if it's not, Ksivas Haget, if it's a continuous, prolonged act, Yisrael Omer Agabav doesn't help. So therefore, the guy's going to write the beginning of the get al das Yisrael, but not the rest of the get. See, he doesn't hold But if it works for Tchilas Maisav, so it doesn't work for the get, but it works for Mila. Because Mila is momentary. So it works for Mila, it works for you, but always doesn't work for get. That's the Rush. So what do you see from the Rush? You see beautifully that he doesn't hold Stam Lishma. He could have said the same thing Tosis said. Why can you do Bris Mila? A guy needs Lishma, because Stam Lishma. Say like Tosis. But the Rush didn't say like Tosis. It must be he holds. You don't say Stam Lishma outside of Karbanos. It's in a Karbanos and you can't apply it to Tzitzis. Can't apply it to Tzitzis. You can't apply it to Mila. He doesn't hold of Stam Lishma. And therefore, the Rush says that since there's no Stam Lishma, and since you need it to be Lishma, you have to have Kavanah Lishma. But if there's Yisrael Omed Al Gabav, and he's telling him, and it only takes a second, so that a guy can have Kavanah for. That's the Rosh Hashita. But if there's no Yisrael Omed Al Gabav, you don't say that Stam Lishma. You don't say Stam Lishma by Mila, and you don't say Stam Lishma by Tzitzis, because according to the sheet of the Rush, Stam Lishma is a category that applies to what? It applies to Kachim, like the Gemara says. He's faithful to the Gemara, so we have no problems with the Rush. He goes with the Gemara. So Tosas wanted to say that by Mila Stam Lishma. And the Rush doesn't say that. The Rush says that Lagabe Mila, if Yisrael Omed Al Gabav, it takes a second, he'll have Kavanah Lishma, but not Stam Lishma. And not Stam Lishma by Tzitzis either. So that's why, according to the Rush, that's the way Shulchan Aruch paskins, he has to actually have Kavanah Lishma. Person making the Tzitzis, the Jew making the Tzitzis, has to have Kavanah Lishma. Now, if a Jew is Omed Al Gabav by a guy and he tells him to make the Tzitzis, that was the Havamina, right? I hope it was clear. The Havamina was that it's Beseder, because it only takes a second. Kesher Elin Daraisa. But now we have a pasuk to be Mamayit, that a goy can make tzitzis, but not the problem is not the lishma. A goy can make tzitzis because even Yisrael Omed Al Gabav, because we have a pasuk that tells us that he can't make tzitzis. There's just a havamina that he could, because he could have kavanah lishma for a second, and that's all it takes. All it takes is the first second. Kesher Elyon Daraisa, Nechuya Kesher Elyon, it takes very short, and that's it. That he can theoretically have kavanah for. Then you have the pasuk to come to be mamayit that. By Mila, why can a goy do Mila? We don't have a pasuk to be mamayit him. Stam Lishma, according to Rabbi Yehuda. But the Rosh never accepts this Stam Lishma. Whenever there's a question that other people brings them to say Stam Lishma, he gives a different teretz. Tosas by Tzitzis says, why do you need a pasuk to be mamayit a goy? Anyway, he can't do Lishma. He says Stam Lishma. The Rosh doesn't say that. Because the Rosh holds that he can't do Lishma. The Rosh holds that if it's a second, he can do Lishma. Therefore, that's why I need the pasuk. Doesn't hold the Stam Lishma by Mila. How can a guy do it? I need Lishma. And the Rosh says, Yisrael Omed Al Gabav. And he tells him to do it Lishma. It's just a second. But he doesn't say Stam Lishma. He obviously doesn't hold the Stam Lishma by other areas of halacha. Just by kachim. Whereas Tosas does hold it applies to all the areas of halacha. So what's the shorasha? What's the svaras hamachlokes? So in the Sefer Pnei Sugyos, Rav Shurkin says following, that Tosas holds that in order to be Stam Lishma, it just needs to be Omeid L'davar Hazeh. It needs to be on standby, as they call it in the airplane lingo, for this matter. In other words, you have a carbon, it's Omed L'Shem Ola. Shalom Al Yisrael. Person shechs with no kavanah has din Ola. Tzitzis, he did the Tviyah Lishmah, and now it's ready to be Tzitzis. So, Lishmah, Stama Lishmah, by Bris Milah, an 8-day-old baby. What's an 8-day-old baby good for? If not for Bris Milah, right? A boy. Bris Milah, good for a lot of things, but also Bris Milah. He's Omed Lekach. So that's the Svar of Tosis. But the Rosh holds there has to be a Chalos Shem. If there's not a Chalos Shem, there's no Stama Lishmah. Which means that a carbon Ola has Shem Ola. He was Mafresh the Shem Ola. There's a Shem Ola. It's called Ola. The Mela, Stama Lishmah. But the Tzitzis have no Chalos on it. There's no halachic change in halachic status. There's Beged that makes it Omed L'Tzitzis. And since that's the case, it cannot be. It's called Stama Lishma. Same thing, Mila. There's no Chalos Shem. A Chalon is a change in halachic status. There's no Chalos Shem in an 8-day-old baby that he now has a Shem Mila on him or something. Unlike a carbon. So in Mila, we don't say Stama Lishma. That's the sheet of the Rosh. And there's so much more to talk about in the Sugim of Rabbi Isai. But Baruch Hashem, we tasted some sweet honey. Mesukim mitvash v'nofes sufim, sweeter than honey, on this sugya, just to see how they reach their conclusions. In other words, you have the conclusion, but what forced them to get there? What compelled the Rambam to go where he got, Tos to go where he got, Rosh to go where he went? Beautiful, everything came together. Always behava, and I hope that we're zeicha to come back to this sugya. It's a Shem. There are many other sugyas. Simchu tuv levav merov kol It's a Shem. Begeshem v'ruach for you and for all of yours. Amen v'amen. Shalom shalom, my sweetest and most beloved friends.